On this episode of the Starship Evo Steam Showcase, we'll take a look at the Phantom SS. The Phantom SS is an original take on a Millennium Falcon kind of ship. It's meant to be an ancient design that has been converted to be a home with all the amenities one could want. The general shape of the ship is that of a skewed octagon with two notches on either side. With its wide and yet flat pancake qualities, this ship has a recognizable and distinct silhouette among its peers. The main structure of it is that of a black-colored central bit, flanked by two silver triangular sides, with the starboard one having a copper-colored stripe running down the length of it. Now, to the nitty-gritty of the exterior. The ship suffers from a common mistake made with greebling, that being not putting in dense details into recesses, and instead putting them in plain view, resulting in what some might call plonking on the greebling. High detail greebling is usually placed in small nooks and crannies to fill in these areas rather than being the main focus of large areas, with that job being relegated to lower detail or lower profile greebling. You can see such examples on the ship itself, mainly on the front and back mandibles. A lot of the high density and high detail greebling is placed in these small areas rather than on the large sleek surfaces. And they fill in these areas and disrupt the surface of the ship, which makes a more interesting and appealing design. But if you go to the top of the ship, you'll see this large thing just sitting in plain view with no other kind of greebling of this type around it. It makes it look foreign and tacked on rather than as a part of the ship. The same goes for these copper-colored vents on the top and bottom of the ship. They just stick out and don't really fit in with the smoothness of these surfaces. These are just small nitpicks of the exterior, and other than that, the outside of the ship looks really good, especially with the radical light color selection. I really like the neon blues and magentas of the lights and the engines on the ship because it makes the ship look more unique. However, there's one last negative thing about the exterior: the landing gear. They are a little underwhelming, being on a highly detailed ship with so much thought put into it. It's a shame to see that the legs are just slopes on hinges with nothing else really on them other than the stickers. It would have been great to see a more complex or more detailed landing gear. We move on to the interior next by first calling down the cargo elevator. As we step into the elevator, we see that the lights inside automatically turn on. We'll see more of this in the ship. We head up in the elevator and enter the cargo bay of the ship, which is just phenomenally detailed because it manages to hit that sweet spot of being very simple and yet still very effective. We continue onwards by heading into the large door on our left. From here we enter the main corridors of the ship, and if we keep going forwards we'll see the teleporter on our left, which has a really nice lighting effect when you step into it. And if we go into the door in front of us, we'll enter a sort of lounge or guest room next to the airlock. The lounge itself is simple and sort of barren, but it has a nice frosted skylight to let some natural light into the room, and something I haven't yet mentioned that is in every room of the ship: a small maintenance hatch where you could look at the logic of the room. We continue down the corridor and towards the rest of the ship, and we'll find the lights actually turn on depending on where we are, which is a nice effect. And once we get to the middle part of the corridor, we'll see that it actually has a window into the cargo bay, which I think is a nice detail to add in. The next room we'll go into is the bedroom. The bedroom is very low capacity as it has only 2 bunks, and if you want to have a nice sleep in here, you won't because the lights in here will only turn off if you leave the room. There is no manual override. The next room we'll see is the main living area of the ship. This room is my favorite out of all the other ones, and for a good reason. It feels lived in, and all the detail inside of it is just so good. The little bookend on the bookshelf, the stack of plates, the coffee machine, the roll of paper towels. All of it is just good. It's nice to see all this detail in a ship that otherwise would be left out. The bathroom and the sitting area with a little couch, the Def Leppard reference on the screen, the charming painting on the wall. I could just gush about this room on and on. It's the amount of thought put into it is just staggering. Fortunately, I can't talk about this room for the rest of the video because there is still one room left, the Helm. When you enter the Helm, you'll find that it's detailed a lot like the other rooms of the ship. It's pretty standard for the ship, but you'll notice that there is one weird thing in here. Why are there 3 stations to sit at when the ship can only accommodate 2 people? If you think about it, the ship has 2 bunks and only 2 seats at the dinner table. So where's the space for this supposed 3rd person? When you sit down and assume control of the ship, you'll unfortunately find that it's kind of sluggish. Its top speed at boost is around 230 meters per second, and it doesn't really turn well. It's to be expected because of how large the interior of the ship is. It leaves little room for ship systems inside. And one thing that I failed to mention at the beginning of the video is that this ship is actually really well armed, because it has 2 hidden block-sized beams on either side of the ship. To sum up my review of the ship, it's extraordinary, and on the brink of being perfect. It's slow but well armed, and it has some of the best interior detailing I've ever seen in this game. It has its shortcomings, sure, but I'm willing to overlook them because of how great it is overall. Hey, so you made it to the end of my diatribe. This video took a lot longer to make since I've become more busy with the beginning of the new school year. Next week's video is going to be more of a special one. It might come out even later than this one, so no promises on whether or not it's going to be scheduled to come out on Wednesday. Hopefully it will. I don't know yet. I'll see you in the next review.